In the 21-22 season, AC Milan won their first Serie A title for over 10 years, and many would have been hoping that that would push the club on to further success and to once again become a dominant side in Italian football, but it hasn't gone to plan. Since then, they've watched Napoli lift the title and rivals Inter Milan beat them by a huge points margin last season, but this year has been the worst of the lot. We're in January now and the club is sitting in 8th place. It's not looking good and it's time for a change. That's why I'm going to step in and sort AC Milan out. Now, I'll have 5 years as manager of the Italian Giants, and I'll be hoping not just to guide them back to Serie A glory, but also to win the Champions League too. And this club are of course no strangers to success. In fact, they're one of the most successful sides in world football, with 7 Champions League wins, 19 Serie A titles, and we'll be hoping today we can deliver even more trophies. And I actually think we've got a very good chance with some of the players the club already has. Our star man is of course Rafael Leao, one of the best left wingers in world football. French goalkeeper Mike Maignan is considered one of the best in his position in the world, as is left back Theo Hernandez, who is a key player of our side. But it's not just those seasoned pros that we have in the team, we've got some great youth talents as well. Recent signing and American international Yunus Musa is one of those, whilst FM predicts young left back David Bartasaghi to have some huge potential, and former Ajax man Silvano Vos is a hugely promising midfield talent. So with those star players we've already got and the young talents coming through, I'm of the opinion that this side is already good enough to challenge for the league title, and FM agrees. In fact, Football Manager predicts us as second place favourites for the title, 7-2 odds of winning it. Only Inter Milan look better than us, and we're considered better than the likes of Juve, Roma and Napoli. But of course, we don't want to wait around. I want to be winning that title straight away and setting the foundations for what will hopefully be a very successful rebuild with Champions League titles on the way. But to get there, we're going to need to make some transfers, and we're going to have the budget to do so. In fact, in Season 1, there's £17 million to spend. Most of AC Milan's business has already been done, but with that kind of money, I reckon we can bring in a few players, improve this team, and really give us the best chance of winning that title. And considering it wasn't the world's largest budget, I actually think in Season 1 we have made some huge improvements to our team and also sold on some players that I don't quite think I want to work with. Let's start with the outgoings first though. One of our youngsters and one of our most promising talents, Filippo Tarasiano, has gone out on loan to Udinese for the season. Former Liverpool man Divock Origi also departs. He's gone to Lazio for a fee of £3.9 million. I've also moved on Alessandro Florenzi to get his wages off the books. He moves to Benfica for £1.5 million. Luka Jovic has gone out on loan to Roma for the season with an option to buy. And I also decided to move on one of our left backs, Fodo Ballo-Touré. He is a good player, he was our second choice in that position behind Theo Hernandez, but the youngster that I showed you earlier, the 18-year-old, I want to bring him through, and it made sense for me to sell him on, so he goes to Sevilla for just over £3 million. And the only other outgoing to note is Noah Okafor, who I believe in real life might be leaving the club also. In game, we've decided to loan him out to PSV Eindhoven, where they'll have an option to buy him should they want to, for only a few £1,000,000, but he's just not someone that I really felt was going to be a key player for us. And then we get to the incomings, where I've made 2 signings, both of which I think are top draw deals. One of them is to help us in the future, and one is to improve our team right now, and I think walks in to our starting 11. But before we see that, if you could do me a favour and smash the like button on this video, that would be amazing. The support really does help the content here, and it helps it give it a bigger push on YouTube. So if we can hit 750 likes, I'd massively appreciate that. And if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you do so on the road to 50k subs. Any support, massively appreciated. Weekly rebuilds for you guys. If you enjoy this, you'll enjoy what there is to come, but I know you're going to enjoy these signings, so let me show you them. First is the Italian prodigy Giovanni Fabian, who we have signed from Bologna and loaned him back there for the season. He's 21 years of age, a very good midfield talent, a very well-rounded midfielder who we've picked up for £8 million and loaned him back out for the year to continue his development at the Serie A club and hopefully come to us next year as a much more complete player. But the big signing was a £30 million deal for Pedro Gonçalves, the Portuguese international, 26 years of age, who can play centre mid, attacking mid or left mid. I think this is going to be a great signing for us. He's a fantastic player, signing from Sporting Club de Portugal for 30 million, and he's been unbelievably good over there. So if he even has half of that form for us, we're going to absolutely love him here at AC Milan. And as we head into the first season, this is what Football Manager expects to be our best 11. You can see we are playing a 4-2-3-1 shape. I think it gets the best out of our players, and currently this is what is considered the best side. Maignan is players in goal who you've met. David Calabria is supposedly our best right back. That might be a position that we want to improve in the future, whilst Malik Thior, the German 22-year-old, and Fikayo Tomori are our best defenders in that centre-back slot. Theo Hernandez is our best left-back, and supposedly Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Ismail Benacer are our best midfield pairing. The Algerian midfielder is wanted by many clubs in Europe, so we'll try and hold on to him. Christian Pulisic, the American, is our best winger, whilst our forward line is supposedly completed with Gonçalves, Leao, and Noah Okafor, who we've loaned out. Realistically, it's going to be Alvaro Morata. The Spanish journeyman is still one of the best players in this team and will hopefully score us a ton of goals. Now, the signings that we've made haven't exactly boosted our chances of winning the title. In fact, the odds haven't really shifted that much. Inter Milan are still favourites, so time will tell whether we can actually upset those odds. Obviously, season 1, it isn't really down to us all that much. That's the club that we've got already here at AC Milan, but in the next few seasons, we're definitely going to get stuck in, move a lot of these players on, and really start implementing our own ideas. But how good is this team right now? Only time will tell. And our first season here at the club has already thrown up some pretty interesting results. We've had some highs, some lows, and this really gives me an idea of where this team is at right now and what we might need to improve in the future. But let's start off with the lows. And it sounds weird to say making a Coppa Italia final in our first season was a low point, but it was when we were face up against Inter Milan and they went 1-0 up. Losing a cup final would hurt anyway, but losing to a rival would make it worse. And even though Tammy Abraham did pull a goal back from a corner late on, it wasn't enough and we lost 2-1. The Champions League, we made the round of 16 and got an unfortunate tie against Real Madrid, where we were really put to the sword. We got a 1-1 result at our stadium, but at the Bernabeu, we lost 5-1. So the Champions League I can kind of forgive. The Italian Cup was a big disappointment for us to lose in that final, but we did pretty well in Serie A. In fact, in our first season, we have already secured the Scudetto, an 89-point title win, but don't worry, for those of you that are thinking, well, this rebuild's over, we've already sorted it. It certainly is not, because a lot of our key players are players that are very much aging and won't be around here long. Some of them were loanies that really helped us out, so next season is going to be huge to see whether we can actually keep up with this performance that we've laid down, or whether this team is going to need a lot of work. Now, granted, some of the usual suspects that we'd like to build around did do pretty well for us, Theo Hernandez and Rafael Leao being our two best players, and of course 2 players I expect to be here long term, but the third best player, the man with 22 goals, our second best goal scorer, was loanee Tammy Abraham, who's going back to Roma after this window. And then there's Alvaro Morata, who scored 36 goals, an amazing season, but age 32 isn't someone we can rely upon long term. He's going to start declining pretty quickly, and we're going to need to find someone else to help out when his legs eventually go. Pedro Gonçalves, though, our main signing this season, did do pretty well, 13 goals and one of our key players in our title run. But I can't let my head run away with this success. We need to make sure we can repeat it in future seasons, and we're going to have to make some transfers to do that. Now, we have got a £22 million budget. It's time to really think about our squad. I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in our players, but this is where the real fun begins. The changes at AC Milan are about to begin. And I said this season there was going to be some changes at the club, and there definitely has been. This transfer window has been manic, so many players leaving, a few key players coming in that I think really bolster our chances of repeating the success of last season, but only time will tell if I got it right. So let's see who we signed and who we sold. Firstly, we circle back to Fabian, the man that we signed last season. He's gone back out on loan this year to Salernitana to continue his growth. Our first permanent transfer out the door was Lorenzo Colombo, who we've sold to Brentford for a minimal fee of 2.5 million, rising to 3.1. He is a good player, but his stocks were low, having not done great at Empoli last year, so we've decided to sell him. Yassine Adli is another one that I just wanted to move on permanently, and he goes to Al Tawoun. He spent last season out on loan at Fiorentina. Again, didn't really set the world alight. There wasn't crazy interest, so I was happy to get any money for him. He is not part of my plans. Strahinja Pavlovic struggled to adapt last season, having moved from RB Salzburg to AC Milan, and we've now sold him on to Napoli for 6.75 million after only 7 appearances, only 3 of which were starts. A sale that I wasn't necessarily planning to make but was too good to turn down though was Alex Jimenez. Liverpool have signed a Spanish future prospect right back from us for 7.5 million, rising to 8.75. He spent last season out on loan in a Spanish second tier, did pretty well, formerly of Real Madrid. He is clearly a talented youngster, but I think there's a few ahead of him in the pecking order, and it made sense to let him go. And it was a similar Similar story for Tommaso Pobega, who is a good centre mid, could have been a useful player for us, but again, I just feel like there's too many players ahead of him in the pecking order to warrant keeping him, so he moves to Al Riyadh for £9 million. I really wanted to trim the fat off this squad and make it one where we know which players we want and we can build off of that. And for the same reason, we sold on Alexis Salamakers, who wasn't part of our title winning side last season, so I've decided, you know what, if he wasn't here last year, he can go. He's gone to Napoli for £10 million, and it's not a terrible deal for a man that I wouldn't really have played. Emerson Royale also moves on. You can see we really are trimming the players in this squad. He's moved to Al Qadsiya in Saudi for £15 million, having only recently signed for £12 million. And then there was this sale, which was pretty interesting. Ismail Benacer, I didn't really realise until the transfer window had started, he left us last season. Liverpool activated his release clause midway through, 43 million, a good fee, but he is of course a massive loss for us, and we had to replace him. And then our biggest sale was Pierre Kalulu, who we have sold to Atletico Madrid in Spain. He joined us a few years ago from Lyon, but last season was out on loan at Juventus, did well for them, but we are not bringing him back. We are selling him on 23 million quid, and I think it's not a bad deal, especially when you see what we did with that money. So let's get into the incoming transfers, but if you are enjoying this content and you want to help support it, you can come and find my Patreon linked in the description. Over there, yes, you can help support me as a creator, but in return you will get benefits such as early access to watching these videos. You can vote on which team you want to see next. There's lots of community chats on there as well on the Patreon, so I can interact with you guys, and there'll be giveaways on there soon too. The more members that we get, we'll be able to do stuff like that. So if you want to join the other Patrons that we've got over there, I'd massively appreciate it. It's a huge help, so thank you to anyone who is already joined, but let's go see the players that have joined us this year. The cheapest signing of the lot, and probably the most forgettable, is a new backup goalkeeper. Stefano Turati, the 23-year-old Italian keeper, comes in from Sassuolo, spent last season out on loan at Monza in Serie A. Didn't do great, but he is obviously not at a great club, so now he comes to us for only 2.5 million to be our deputy behind Magnan. And I mentioned I wanted a new striking option with Tammy Abraham leaving that could maybe deputise for Morata and potentially overtake him, so I've decided to go for Marcus Leonardo, a player I've had mixed success with in the past, so it is a bit of a risk, but the 22-year-old Brazilian signs from Benfica for £22 million, rising to 27. He scored 8 in 12 for them last season, only 5 starts as well, so clearly the former Santos man can score goals at a good level, but can he do it in Serie A? And then we get to my final signing and my favourite one, because we know many Italian teams are built on their strong defence, and I've opted to go and spend most of our money on a central defender to try and make that the case, and that was Antonio Silva. We have bought the 21-year-old Portuguese international. The young leader has signed from Benfica for 47 million, a release clause fee, which is a big deal, but 50 million quid for hopefully the future of our backline for another 10 years. I think it's a good deal. He is a brilliant player, and he walks straight in to our best 11, which is already looking a little bit changed with a lot of those loanees from last season moving and some new players coming back into the squad. It's still Magnan in goal, Calabria, Tomori and Theo Hernandez, but Malik Thiaw is replaced by Antonio Silva. Loftus-Cheek's best partner in the midfield is supposedly now Tijani Reinders, whose name I've definitely butchered, but the Dutch 27-year-old is clearly a talented player, whilst Pulisic, Gonçalves, Leao and Morata continue as our best forward line. Samuel Chukwueze was a player that did do well for us last year, actually. I wanted to point him out. The man from Villarreal did brilliantly on the wing. We'll be hoping for some similar performances from a Nigerian this year, but we are now ready to go for our second season here at AC Milan. If you have a look, we are now predicted to win the title. The pressure is now on us and not Inter Milan. Can we live up to expectation? We've won the title in season 1. That maybe means we're going to win it every single year, but if I know Football Manager, it's not always the case. We need to be at our best if we want to win another Scudetto. So in season 1, we won a Scudetto, and we were hoping this year we could back it up with another one in season 2. But things don't always go to plan when you're a Football Manager. Let's start with the Italian Super Cup though, a competition that I believe AC Milan have won recently in real life. In game we were against Inter Milan in the final and went 1-0 up, and it wasn't long before we had a second against our rivals, Pedro Gonçalves at the double. Pulisic's corner in only the 19th minute allowed us to go 3-0 up as the ball came out to Antonio Silva. He found Bartasaghi and the young left back powered it into the corner. Inter Milan though were ready to fight back, and their new signing Rooney Bargi was crucial in getting them back in the game through Martinez's goal, and it was the Swede Rooney Bargi again finding Fratesi in the area and creating a good chance for Thuram to make it 3-2. So Inter really were staging a comeback, but as time ticked on, we managed to get the winner, Yunus Musa into Morata to seal the deal, and that meant we had won the Super Cup. So far that was a Scudetto in Season 1 under our belt, and now the Italian Super Cup. I will say the Champions League this year we didn't do great in, and neither did we do great in the Italian Cup either, but then it comes to Serie A. Did we win the title this year? The answer was no. In fact, we finished 5 points off the title, a 3rd place finish, and a big disappointment compared to last year. Juventus run away with it, Napoli finished 1 point ahead of us, and exactly what I said would happen did. Our goals completely dried up, Tammy Abraham not being here ruled out a good 20 goals this season, then Morata did well, but 19 goals is nothing compared to what he had last time. Romelu Lukaku ended up scoring 30, and if Morata could have just added, say, another 5 goals, that could have completely shifted the table and put us in 1st place, but it wasn't to be. We do win the Super Cup, but unfortunately, we lose out in the Serie A, and it just goes to show this is not going to be a super easy, cruising rebuild where we win everything. Granted, it was still a decent season, it wasn't the worst in the world, and a lot of our players did perform well, including new signing Antonio Silva, but something was missing. I'm not necessarily sure what yet. We're going to have to analyse the squad, see if it's the midfield, the defence, or the attack, but we have got the budget to do so, £34 million and 300 grand a wage budget. Hopefully, with the right signings here, we can get back to winning ways. We really took it upon ourselves last season to change the squad up. It hasn't worked for us. We need to make some more signings and sales if it's going to in Season 3. And having came off that 3rd place finish in Season 2, we went for it in the transfer market. In fact, there was over £100 million worth of sales and £100 million spent on new signings. This is already starting to look like a new look AC Milan squad. We once again start the departures though with Giovanni Fabian, who goes out on loan to Lecce this season to continue his growth. He's been doing a little bit better each year in terms of his development of attributes, so hopefully by next season, the young midfielder will be ready to play. Matteo Gabbia has also departed at the end of his contract to go and sign for Al Khalij out in Saudi Arabia. He did only play a few times for us last year, so not a huge loss, but he has been around the club for a while. Marco Pellegrino is a good Argentinian centre-back who spent the last couple of seasons out on loan at both Atalanta and Independiente, and whilst he did have a big future, I just couldn't really see him getting minutes here, so Atalanta decided they wanted him after that loan, and I thought, you know what, let's sell him on. About £6 million for him. I'm sure he'll do great there, but I don't quite think he was AC Milan level. Nor did I think Yusuf Fofana was. Now, this is a player that I thought would be big for us at the start of this rebuild, but it hasn't quite gone to plan. Played 21 times last season, 7 starts. In the first year, he made 0 starts, so to get £9 million for the former Monaco man, I think is a decent deal. Noah Okafor has also left permanently, spent last season out on loan at Al Qadsiya, and now they make it permanent for £9 million after a great year for them. But now we get to the 2 major signings, where 2 players in the last year of their contracts have left. The first one was for Fikayo Tomori. The 28-year-old Englishman has got a great move for himself to Real Madrid. He's been great for us, maybe not amazing, but still pretty good, so he is a big loss. £40 million though was certainly enough money to reinvest. And then there's Christian Pulisic, who is of course one of our star men, but the American has attracted the interest of Barcelona, who have paid £40 million for him. Not a bad deal at all, but again, we are losing one of our key players, but that money was of course a lot for us to now reinvest and bring in some fresh talent. The first signing only cost us £6 million, a new gen player by the name of Pablo Roca, who is playing out at Boca Juniors. Now, the 19-year-old Argentinian we have signed for £6 million and loaned him back out for the next season to hopefully develop a little bit, but there is a very promising talent here, maybe not one to rely upon just yet, but one in a few years' time that could come good. I've bolstered our midfield with the signing of 25-year-old German midfielder Tom Kraus, who signs from Mainz out in the Bundesliga. £22 million was the fee for the former Leipzig, Nuremberg and Schalke man. He even spent a year out on loan at Luton apparently in the Championship, but at this point he is a very talented midfielder, comes in as one of our best in the position, so fingers crossed he lives up to expectation. But we made 2 big sales this summer, and I think we made 2 big signings. The real star names for us joining this year were Michael Elise. The 24-year-old right winger has signed from Bayern Munich, where it hasn't quite worked for him after that Crystal Palace move. £29 million rising to £34 million, I think will prove to be a bargain on that right wing. But then for pretty much the exact money that we got for Fikayo Tomori, I think we have made a brilliant signing. 22-year-old Ousmane Diomande, the Ivorian international international centre-back has signed from Sporting Club de Portugal for a release clause fee. Him and Antonio Silva at the back, two of the best young talents in the world in that centre-back spot. I said I wanted to build a strong defence and work from there, and I think this is exactly the kind of signing that we needed. And being totally honest, as we head into our third year, I am very happy with this team. In fact, if you were to ask me, I would say there probably aren't many better defences in world football, to be honest with you. Maignan, Silva, Diamonde, Hernandez and Calabria, that's really an amazing set of defenders. Calabria has been rotating a lot of his minutes with this guy, Filippo Tarasiano. He's a 23-year-old formerly of Hellas Verona who's been at the club since the start and developing well. In the left-back spot, I thought I would just show you as well Bartasagi, who is now 20 and developing very well under the deputy of Theo Hernandez. Reinders, Loftus-Cheek, Chukwueze, Goncalves, Leao and Morata, they're still supposedly the best players in those attacking positions. I'm hoping Marcus Leonardo though can eventually become that main man up top. Last season, it wasn't necessarily great for us. 20 games he played, 7 starts, only scored 4 goals. It's not looking good. He really needs to come good this season if we're going to do anything. And as we have a look, this year, having won Scudetto in Season 1, in Season 2 he missed out, but we are still expected to win it. Napoli and Inter Milan are closest challengers. The pressure is still on us, and having not won it last season and finished third, if we don't win it this year, we might be in trouble with the board, especially after all the money we've spent and all the players we've sold, so we need to make sure in Season 3 we get it right. And I've got to say, after 3 years here at AC Milan, I think we're struggling a little bit. After the success of Season 1, it's been really hard to live up to that, and this year was a very disappointing season. Remember, we came into this rebuild hoping to win the Champions League, and in Season 3, it just hasn't worked for us at all. And our Champions League run is probably the best example of this, where at Anfield we went 1-0 down as our former player Benacer scored and celebrated. And these are the kind of games I would love to be competing in at this stage, especially after 3 years at the club and all the money we've spent. But we were 2-0 down very early on through Luis Diaz's goal. A Benacer corner in the second half found the head of Diamonde, who didn't get it far away enough, and Gomez played it back to our former man, who found Luis Diaz onto Samuel Moroidian, who powered home. And if 3-0 wasn't bad enough, soon it was 4, and that just proves the level that we're currently at. We're really struggling to compete on the European front, but it's not just in Europe, it's at home as well. Because the Super Cup we lost out to Juventus in, we were knocked out of the Coppa Italia in the third round to Parma, and then there's a Serie A where we did okay. I mean, we secured second place, way clear of Napoli. In third, we managed to get back there, but I mean, Inter Milan stormed it to the title, 93 points, such a big difference between us and them currently, and as you can tell, none of our best goal scorers are on this list, so we're just not scoring enough goals, it's not quite working, and we need some changes. If we do have a look at the best performers, it's kind of everything that we already know. Goncalves has done pretty well for us, 20 goals this year actually is a very good return. Ruben Loftus-Cheek has done well, as has Theo Hernandez, but really the goals are drying up. I mean, Marcus Leonardo did score 12, but Alvaro Morata, as we predicted, is getting worse. He's now only a 2-star player, and he only scored 9 goals all season, which again isn't bad, but as our best striker, it's not good enough. Michael Elise did well in his first season at least, with 12 goals, developing nicely and becoming a very complete player. But it's just not working here. We really need to rethink what we're doing. We've got £33 million to spend in the next window. It's nothing crazy, but hopefully enough to get something done. Maybe we'll need some sales to kind of refresh the squad. I'm not quite sure at this point. Now, facilities-wise, things are looking great. We have got stacked out facilities at this point, and we are producing a lot of good young players, like this guy who is clearly going to be a bright talent. But we've got money now to spend. We're going to have to spend it right, else in Season 4, if we don't win anything, no matter what happens in the final season, we can probably consider this rebuild with AC Milan a failure, and we don't want that to happen. So let's get these transfers right. Okay, strap in for this. Season 4's transfer window was a huge one. In fact, there was nearly £400 million worth of transfers combined, outgoings, incomings, loads of big players leaving, loads of big players joining, a crazy window that I did not expect. This is the last time I'll ask you though, so if you are enjoying, smash the like button for me, and with that being said, let's get into these transfers. In fact, let me know what you think of them in the comments below. Have we messed this rebuild up, or are we getting it right? Firstly, Alvaro Morata, I wanted his wages off the books. He wasn't going to leave permanently, so he's gone to Rangers for the season. And I've also loaned out Marcus Leonardo to Brentford with the aim of selling him on permanently. You'll see why in a minute with who we've bought in, but I just don't think he's good enough. And the same went for Tom Krause, who signed for us last season. Now he's out on loan at Sporting Club de Portugal. Played 15 times for us last year, only 3 starts. didn't work. I've just got to accept it's a failure and move on. Luca Romero is a youngster that we've been loaning out every single season. The former Lazio man looks a promising talent, but it's not going to work out here, so we've sold him to Valencia for 3 mil. David Calabria also leaves. Our starting right back is out the door. The 30-year-old has moved to Al Shabab for 9.5 million. He's been good for us, a great servant, but we're moving on and changing with the times. Then we get to the sales that I wasn't really trying to initiate. They just happened because we've got good players. Napoli have signed Samuel Chukwueze. The Nigerian 28-year-old had a year left on his deal and has moved for 38 million quid after a few good years for us. Our goalkeeper has also left. Mike Magnon goes and signs for Chelsea. Age 32, it's not bad to receive a £50 million fee, especially when you actually have a look and realise he's not really been great for us at all. But of course, it is a big loss in terms of a character. But then the big one, Theo Hernandez, arguably the best left-back in the world in this save, has left us. I mean, he's been a great servant for a number of years, but unfortunately, his time was up. He got interest from Al Nassr, and of course, he wanted to go. 94 million quid is a great fee. He's getting 800 grand a week. You can see why he'd want to leave. But of course, that meant we had a load of money now to reinvest and try and refresh his team. Let's start with the free transfers. There were 2 of them, which were kind of squad-level players that I'm hoping will develop and blossom into first-team regulars. The first is Miguel Gutierrez, the Spanish 26-year-old international we are signing here for free, having left Girona. I think this is a real coup of a deal. The former Real Madrid man is an unbelievable talent, and I think actually could be a starter straight away. And don't laugh at this one, I think there's still a player here in Anthony, and we have picked him up for free. Now, he's hopefully going to take the Chukwueze minutes of being the backup right winger, basically, so we're not expecting him to start all the time, but he left Man U on a free deal, and every time he played for Man U, in this world, he did pretty well, always getting a good average match rating. He's clearly half decent. He might not be great in real life, but here, he is now an AC Milan player. We improve our depth at right back with the signing of Vinicius Tobias. A 23-year-old Brazilian has joined us from Shakhtar for 5 million quid, a bargain deal for the attacking wing-back. I then picked up a new gen player who I think is going to tear the world up when he gets a little bit better. This is Konstantin Goschold, who's an 18-year-old German who we have picked up for 7.5 million on a release clause deal from Leipzig, and looking at him, he's going to be worth that no matter what. Marcus Leonardo and Morata are out, and our new striker for this year is going to be Caio Jorge. He's a 25-year-old Brazilian. He's cost us 24 million from Cruzeiro. The former Santos man was at Juventus for a while, but he's been doing so well in Brazil that I'm really hoping it translates into our first team. But then we get to our 2 big signings. If those ones weren't big enough, we have a new starting goalkeeper, Guilherme Restes, one of the best young goalkeepers in world football, age 20, already playing Ligue 1 football for Toulouse and playing it very well, mind you, has signed for 60 million quid, about 10 million more than Magnan, and he's 10 years younger. And then there is this crazy deal. I don't know how he pulled it off, but I can somehow kind of imagine it. Pedri in an AC Milan shirt. He was transfer listed at Barcelona. He is coming in as one of our best paid players, but when he's listed for 68 million, any team needs to be breaking the bank for that value for this kind of talent. He is unbelievable and walks straight in as our best player at this club. And you know what? When you now look at this team, I think it is a very good one. I don't know how we're not winning many more trophies with a squad like this. I mean, Restes in goal, Teresiano is our best right back, which maybe is a position we might need to improve on, but he is now an Italian international and an Italian international goal scorer too. Silva, Diamande, Gutierrez, Reinders, Pedri, Elise, Gonçalves, Leao, Marcus Leonardo, who is not here, Caio Jorge in this case. That is an unbelievable team, and really, they should be doing very well this year. If we have a look at the season preview, the board are only wanting us to qualify for the Champions League, but I want to win it, and we are the best odds we've ever had really to win the title. I think this Pedri signing has really taken us to another level, but only time will tell if we're actually going to live up to the expectation the game has of us. We need to go out and win this Scudetto, show everyone what we've got, and then we can head into the final season and maybe try and redeem this rebuild in some way. But first, Season 4, we have to win. I can't lie to you, this rebuild is doing my head in. I feel like it's just not quite clicking with us. That being said, I'm about to say that this has probably been our best season yet, but it also hasn't been, and I'll explain why in a second, but let's start with our actual big success this year, which is the Italian Cup, where we had finally made it to the final again, where we'd lost to Inter Milan before. We were ready this time against Torino to get the win, and Reinders put us 1-0 up early on, and in the first 10 minutes we were able to add a second. Yunus Musa into Anthony, who did well enough to create a chance, back to Musa, powered it home, and that gave us the victory in the Coppa Italia. We had now secured that trophy for the first time in this rebuild, but what about the Champions League? League, the eventual aim of this whole thing. Well, this year, having knocked out Newcastle and Spurs, we had actually made it all the way to a semi-final where we faced off against Barcelona, and in the first leg we got off to a great start through Gonçalves, but of course Barca are a great team and they were able to get a goal back. In fact, it did come through an own goal as the ball powered off Malik Fior and ended up in the back of the net, and whilst it looked like the game was going to end as a draw, in the 85th minute Rafael Leao found the youngster Gottschalk, who got in behind, took a great touch and powered home for the winner. So we were winning in the semi-final of the Champions League. The first leg was done and we were so close to the final until we played at the Nou Camp and we lost 4-0 thanks to a Vitor Roque hat-trick and an own goal. But you know what? It was a much better performance than we've had so far. And that brings us nicely onto the league table, and it's exactly why I mentioned earlier that this is our best season but also just a real struggle because we haven't had a points total this good, I believe, or at least this matches our best points total. And you would think that would mean we were going to win it. But unfortunately, it was Inter Milan who got the victory. Our rivals once again steal the Scudetto. By 4 points, we had better goal difference. We lost the same amount of games. They just drew a couple less than us. We really let ourselves down against Palermo and Empoli. Yeah, a weird year. We've done really well in all competitions, but I think I would have rather have came fourth and got knocked out of the Champions League straight away than making it so close and eventually losing. The one thing that we can see though is we are starting to get goal scorers again. Elite's been great for us, but Gottschalk has been absolutely amazing. He joined us from Leipzig, if you remember, for 7.5 million, and now at such a young age he is leading the team with 21 goals and 27 starts too, and there's a reason for that. And it is totally my fault. Kaio George did not play a single game this year. We signed him to be our new striker, only to realise that we couldn't register him because of a foreign registration rule. We had signed too many players. I thought we had sold someone, which would meant he could play, but we'd only loaned him out, so it was a weird one. Kyle George didn't play, I absolutely butchered that, but he's hopefully going to play next season at the very least. But that being said, the goals are now flowing. Forget Marcus Leonardo, who's out on loan, but you can see Gottschalk with 32 goals, Reinders with 9, Gonçalves with 18, Leao with 20, Elise with 15, 16 from Antony, by the way, which is an incredible return to form from the Brazilian right winger. I told you, it was not a silly signing at all. Pedri doing great too, Antonio Silva with 6, Teresiano, someone you wouldn't really expect, chipping in with plenty of goals as well. This is exactly what we wanted. This is exactly what we need. Goals from all over the pitch. Even Giovanni Fabian, who he signed in season 1, is now starting to come good. He's done pretty well for us this year. 5 goals in all comps. And now as we head into our last season, I'm feeling a little bit more confident. Now, granted, the way that this rebuild's gone, I'm sure we're going to lose in the final and lose on the last day of the season of every competition, but we have got £30 million to spend, 700 grand a wage budget. We're going to go for it in this final season. We're going to full send it, try and buy some star players, and hopefully that will lead us to a Scudetto now. I'm not even bothered about the Champions League. Just bring me one more Scudetto. And I really do think this window was the one that is going to send us over the line. The players that we have signed, I think, take us to a completely new stratosphere of ability. We did get rid of some too, though, so let's start there. Vinicius Tobias was okay for us, but we've now got a better player in his position, so I've decided to loan him out to Flamengo, where hopefully he'll end up getting bought on a permanent deal for 30 million, which will be a big profit. Tom Krause, we've decided to call it a day with. He's moved to Al Ettifaq, where he is now valued at 30 million. We sold him for 10 million. We make some of the money back what we initially paid. About half the money overall was eventually made back after a good loan at Sporting Club. He has earned himself a good move. Marcus Leonardo also did well enough at Brentford to secure a permanent move for us. He scored 19 in the Championship, which maybe shows his level, and then he's gone on to leave for £10 million. We make some of the money back, but we say that's a failure. But the biggest and final sale we're going to cover is Pedro Gonçalves, who has been a brilliant signing for us. One of the best that we have signed in this rebuild, I'd say, if not the best so far. He came in, he's done unbelievable numbers every single year, and now he moves to Saudi in the last year of his deal for just under 50 million, a mega contract too. Good luck to him, age 30, a great fee for us, a great fee for him, good luck to him. Coming in though as a free agent is Jack Grealish, who adds experience and quality at 32 years of age, both to that number 10 position and also the left wing spot. He joins us having left Man City, where he's still been playing, but the minutes have gone down as the years have gone on, and I'm hoping he'll want to prove himself here. And then we move on to the second biggest signing of the window, Arda Güler, the Turkish 23-year-old, the Turkish Messi, whatever they want to call him, I don't know. This guy is just unbelievable, amazing technical ability. We have picked him up for that number 10 spot, also can play right wing from Real Madrid for 45 million. Now, he was playing a fair bit for Real, but maybe not as much as he would have wanted. As the years have gone on, the minutes have picked up, but he's always done well, and he is definitely worth the money, so we've gone for him, and I think he is going to be an unbelievable talent for us in this team. But I mentioned we had a new right back, and we have gone out and bought 27-year-old Jeremy Frimpong in his prime. The former Man City man went to Celtic to Bayer Leverkusen in this world, then ended up back at Man City for 50 million, only to not play again. So we've now picked him up, 50 million quid is the fee, they get all their money back, but we get a player that suits our tactic down to the ground, and I think is going to take us to another level. And as we head into our final season with AC Milan, this is now what is considered our best team, and actually looking at it, it's star-studded. So many talents. I mean, Restes, Frimpong, Silva, Thion, Gutierrez, that could be Diamonde. We've also been watching the development in this save of Bartasaghi, who's been doing very well, still 22, and has got lots of years ahead of him in this AC Milan team. Teresiano as well at right back is a very good option for us to have on that cover in the defence. Then there's Reinders and Pedri in the midfield. Meanwhile, you've still got Giovanni Fabian here as well. Loftus-Cheek is still with us too, and then there's Elise, Grealish, Leao, Kaio George, that could be Yunus Musa. You could even see Gottschalk, who remember scored so many for us last year, and he's not even considered good enough to be in our best 11. So it shows you just how strong of a team we've got. We're going to go for it in our final season. We've got to win the Scudetto. We're going all out, 2-1 odds, way better than anyone else. This is going to be our year. I can feel it. We have bought the right players. I just need to see it happen on the pitch. And you might be able to tell already as we go into season 5, a bit of relief is on my face, a little bit of a smile, because in this 5th season, I think we might have just recovered this rebuild with how well we've done. Now, unfortunately this year we couldn't retain the Italian Cup, but in the Super Cup, we were able to put on a great performance. In the final against our rivals Inter, Fabian put us 1-0 up before an Arda Güler corner in the 30th minute was whipped in, came back out to Güler on the edge of a box. He was able to find Pedri, who finished brilliantly. And just to seal the deal and prove who the best team in Milan are at the moment, Fabian scored a brilliant finish to make it 3. So that's 1 trophy won this year. What about the Italian League? Well, as you can probably tell by the smile, we had an unbelievable year. We won 30 games this season, drew 7 mind you, but we only lost 1 all year, a 4-2 loss to Sassuolo away from home. Outside of that though, 83 goal difference, 97 points, and a clear distance away from Inter Milan. AC Milan are back on top. And with the youngsters we've got in this squad as well, this team is only going to get better, both the ones we've signed and the ones from the academy. But when I say that this wasn't the crowning achievement of the whole rebuild, you might have a feeling what's coming next. Because in the Champions League, we had once again made a semi-final, and this time we were up against Barcelona once more to try and get some redemption, and we certainly got it. We demolished them 5-1, and that meant we were heading into the final of the UCL. The only issue is the club we were facing off with was Real Madrid, a team that have destroyed us already in this rebuild, and we're looking to do so again. But football can be pretty poetic sometimes, and I imagine when Real Madrid sold Arda Güler, they did not think he'd be scoring against them in a Champions League final. I imagine all the Real Madrid fans would have been very hurt by that, but maybe even more so by what was coming next. Rafael Leao took the ball on the left wing, you can see he's in the middle again, Arda Güler once more, making it 2. Real Madrid of course though are full of quality, and Endrick was able to pull one back in the 89th minute, but thankfully it was too little, too late, and that Arda Güler masterclass meant that we had secured a UCL trophy in our final season, and I'll be honest, I'd totally given up on it happening, but we've got it done somehow. I say somehow, it is pretty clear how, because every single player in this team contributed massively. I mean, if you have a look, all of these guys from Reinders upwards have had like seasons of their life kind of seasons. Even Pedri, Antonio Silva, Thior, Restes, Grealish got 12 goals in his first year, Frimpong was excellent, Güler got 14, Giovanni Fabian, who I'd written off really in season 1, has managed to contribute with 16 goals this year, 15 from Elise, 30 from Leao, and if I go all the way down here, you'll see Kaio George managed to score 21 goals. He did come good in the end. If we had him last season, we probably would have won the Scudetto a little bit earlier. We also saw Gottschalk as well, managed to score 15. He is developing into one of the best players in the world already, I'd say, age 19, so he's got a huge future ahead of him, and he is one of many young talents in this team that have got huge promise. If you have a look, we've got a lot of potential in this side. If you have a look at the age profile as well, we haven't exactly got an old squad. There's lots of great young players coming through. The under-18s as well are stacked with some bright talents that are going to tear the world up in a few years' time. We've got maximum facilities, a great reputation, and financially we've done all of this whilst having loads of money in the bank, not exactly having the biggest transfer budgets in the world either, and writing off any debt that the club had. I think in the end we can actually call this rebuild a success. Even though it started off slow, we got there eventually. But let me know who you want to see next, and if you want to vote for a rebuild in the future, head on over to Patreon, and that's where the polls will be. Thank you for all your support on the videos as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.